Well, it finally happened. Rivian finally released the details of the new R2 series. And of course, they also brought a whole new model that nobody was expecting, the R3 and R3X. But I want to focus more on the R2 because there's some good things about this to talk about, but there's also some things to consider. When we're talking about vehicles in this category, we're talking about a very popular market segment of the automotive industry. Of course, the best-selling car in the entire world was the Tesla Model Y, not just electric, all cars. The best-selling car in the entire world, the Tesla Model Y, which is really no surprise. This is an extremely popular car size because it gives you the flexibility for families to have all the space that they need for all the things that they have to lug around, but also the comfort for people who may not need all of that space, but still appreciate having a higher ride, definitely good range, and access to Tesla's supercharging network. Now, of course, as we move forward, we are looking at more and more EVs going to NACS standard, which is great news, and Tesla opening up their supercharging network, and the R2 will be native NACS, which is a big plus. But with that, let's dive into the details because I want to talk about this car, how it compares to the Model Y, what you might want to think about with this, and we'll also talk a little bit about the R3, R3X. Yes, it's cool. Kind of that hot hatch, although I would argue it's more like a gremlin than anything else, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder after all. Let's dive into the details right now. So the R2 has finally been announced, starting at $45,000 and will come in three different configurations: a rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and that three-motor performance. The three-motor performance will go 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds, which is incredible given the Model Y performance goes 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. All three configurations will come with at least 300 miles of range. They will come native with NACS, although it is on the wrong side of the car. And this is one of those areas where it's kind of silly. I don't know why Rivian decided to put the charge port on the passenger side. Of course, they moved it to the rear, which is a good start, but putting it on the passenger side, that's not where the charging handle is going to be on Tesla's supercharging network. Of course, V4s, that won't matter quite as much, but the tens of thousands of superchargers in the world right now, they're on the driver's side, and that is kind of a miss in my opinion. I don't know why Rivian decided to forego customer experience and put it on that side. I'm sure there's an engineering reason for it, because if it's not for engineering purposes, why the heck would they not put it in the right spot? They already moved it to the rear of the vehicle. Anyways, it's in the wrong spot, but we can overlook that. It is NACS, and that is first and foremost what is most important. This vehicle will only come in a 5-passenger configuration, which most people argue the Model Y with 7 seats shouldn't have 7 seats anyways. I have a 7-seat, and it's very tight back there, but it does work for small children, getting more people in the car. We do use it from time to time. Not sure if it really matters or not in this segment that it doesn't have 7 passengers, but it gives people the opportunity to look up to the R1S. Rivian also announced their next generation battery, and this 4695 cell, not to be confused with Tesla's 4680 cell, is the same diameter. However, it's about 15 millimeters taller than the 4680. So this new battery is coming to Rivian, which is great news, and will bring with it some other innovations that we've seen at Tesla are now rolling into Rivian, including that structural type battery pack where that is the floor of the vehicle. And speaking of Tesla, I want to look at this car compared to a Model Y. Of course, it is a smaller version of the R1S, quite a bit smaller, but how does it compare to the Model Y, a car that you probably know pretty well at this point? Well, it's very similar in size. In fact, some people would say it's about the same size. Really, here's where the difference is. It's about 1.5 inches shorter in length, but it sits about 3 inches taller. So it's more off-road capable, has a little bit more ground clearance, but it's a tiny bit shorter. Of course, when you step into the R2, you are going to be greeted with a very similar appearance to what you're used to in the R1 platform. It's going to feature that same 15.6-inch center screen, And it's also going to have that front display in front of the steering wheel. One of the things that was kind of a fun play during this announcement was the glove box situation, going from no glove box to having two glove boxes. It's actually genius. And this is something that Rivian continues to do very well with, and that is maximizing cargo space. Having a second glove box doesn't really matter on paper. However, it's more space for storage, and Rivian continues to absolutely crush it with this. A huge front, two glove boxes, a center console with additional storage. You have the rear boot, and then you have the sub trunk. Tons of storage in this vehicle, which is definitely going to be at the benefit of their target customer. One of the things I love the most about the new R2 is the lift gate. It's not just a standard lift gate. Yes, it does open and close traditionally like you're used to. However, that rear glass does open, as do those rear windows on the sides. They open to vent. This gives you a really awesome airy feel, and if you've ever been in a vehicle where that rear window opens, it's actually really nice, especially if you're in a really nice climate. Having this thing open isn't just nice for comfort, it actually allows you to load some things in a very unique way. And speaking of loading items in, the front seats fold flat, just like the second row. That means the entire inside of the vehicle from dash to the rear can all be available to you, whether that's laying down and camping or leaving the driver's seat up, passenger seat down, rear seats down, and having a huge amount of storage space. This is actually going to make the R2 more capable than most vehicles in this class, if not the most capable when it comes to storage, having those seats fold down like that. Of course, Rivian is keeping true to their DNA of adventure, and they are bringing a new host of accessories, all premium, of course, all high dollar, of course, but it does allow you to have some Rivian specific items made tailored for the R2 to enhance your adventure, whether that's camping on the roof of your vehicle or carrying your bikes or carrying cargo. This vehicle is definitely going to be a home run for adventure seekers everywhere. And then for what I argue was a little bit of a disappointment, and that is when this vehicle is coming. It's actually not going to come until 2026. And RJ did say during the release, he was excited to announce that they've pulled things forward and it's going to be the first half of 2026. That's still 2 years away. That's a long time. And to think about this in a different way, the Tesla Model Y has been out for 4 years and it's almost getting its refresh. That'll be happening sometime next year. So 2 years in EVs, that's a long time. A lot has happened since that time, and a lot can still happen between now and then to change the way the dynamics look in the industry. So thinking of R2, you're thinking of a car 2 years down the road, comparing it to cars available today. That said, although it's going to be quite some time before these are going to be on the road, when it does come, I think it'll still be a very good option to consider. That said, let's look over to the R3 and the R3X, which was the one more thing that we got, actually two more things that we got during the announcement today of the R2. So the R3, what is this? What is it all about? When is it coming? What are the stats? Well, the R3 rolled out onto the stage shortly after the announcement of the R2. And what can be said? It's a hot hatch, basically. It's a smaller version of the R2. Dimensionally, it's a little bit tighter in most directions, although it still has that taller off-road rugged suspension, giving you plenty of ground clearance. It's just in a smaller package, and RJ seemed to be very much in love with the look at this, although in my opinion it looks more like a gremlin, and I'm not too crazy about the way that this thing looks. A hot hatch, there are many of them over the last couple of decades that really do look good, and I would say this probably is not one of them. That said, it does have a lot of capability, and it will bring this new platform forward with the same 4695 battery cells, 300 miles plus on all configurations. It's going to have two battery sizes, over 300 miles of range, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds on that R3X. And of course, we'll have NACS standard as well, again on the wrong side of the vehicle. Both the R2 and the R3 with these new 4695 battery cells are expected to charge from 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes. So nothing huge there in changing the game in charging speed, but pretty acceptable for what's available today. No surprise, of course, this was clearly a shot across the bow at Tesla, directly aiming at the best-selling car in the entire world, the Tesla Model Y. It meets dimensionally pretty well against the Model Y. It is priced similarly to the Model Y and has similar range as the Model Y. This vehicle is going to bring some new features that the Model Y doesn't have, and it's going to appeal to a much different customer base, generally speaking. However, the utility of this vehicle is just so universal that most people will find that this car fits their lifestyle really well. Whether you're an adventure seeker or an urban dweller, this car is going to really sell well, especially if they do deliver on a $45,000 starting price. And as you step up in trim, if they can keep those costs down to a minimum, I think that this will do very well. We still have 2 years until that time, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next 2 years in battery tech at Tesla, and that is where I would keep my eyes focused. How does the 4680 cell develop even quicker? And how do we get better capacity, better charging, and a better overall experience with the 4680 battery cells? So that's it for today. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on the R2? And do you agree with me? Is the R3 really just ugly, or am I just out of my mind? Hope that you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to catch you on the next one.